And in today's video, I have with me Mr. Jeff Heggie, all the way from United States of America. Hope you are in the best of your health. Thank you so much, sir, for having your time. I'm super thankful to you that you managed time from your busy schedule, and it's a real honor for me to be with you and discussing about entrepreneurship.
Hello, Hasib. I appreciate the opportunity to be talking with you today. I'm doing well, and I hope you're doing well too. I'm excited to talk about entrepreneurship with you and answer your questions and really dig into some of these ideas and the thoughts that we have. And so, yeah, let's go ahead. Thanks.
All right, sir, I will be asking questions one by one. So the first question here is that how can an entrepreneur think of the new ideas if a student wants to start his new business, his new startup, those ideas which are emerging in the market, those ideas which have value in the market?
It's interesting, how do we think of ideas for a startup? And you hear different stories of how people came up with the ideas of how they created their companies, and they're all over the board. A lot of people say, I was in a business working for someone. It was something I loved, and I created my own business around that. I can't say that for myself. My company, Kodiak Mountain Stone, that I founded in 2005, is a manufacturing company. We make artificial stone veneer for houses and fireplaces and whatnot. And I was actually in the banking industry at the time, and I was sitting with one of my clients, and he had a stone catalog on his desk. He was a home builder, and I started looking through it, and I said, I can do that. I can figure that out. And that's how I got into that business. I walked away from the banking industry and started making stone. But it's interesting to watch different people, what they do. You look at Sarah Blakely, and if you don't know who Sarah is, she's the founder of Spanx. She's the first self-made billionaire woman that didn't make her money from inheritance or a husband or anything like that. And what she did, you hear the story of Sarah Blakely, and you hear that she cut out the bottom of her pantyhose and then created Spanx. And there's obviously a lot more to that story. But she had been working as a door-to-door salesperson selling fax machines for 7 years. And she was very good at sales. That was one of her big strengths, but she wanted to get out of it. And she actually recalls pulling over the side of the road one time and just saying, this isn't for me. This is not the life that I wanted. This isn't what I want to do. And she went home that night and in her journal listed out all her strengths and weaknesses. And knowing that sales was one of her strengths, she looked at it and said, I'm going to invent something that's going to bring joy to millions of people. And the story would be perfect if all of a sudden the next day she invented something and created Spanx and things went on from there. But that's not how it happened. She actually continued selling fax machines for 2 more years without knowing what it was. But during that time, she was very focused on trying to figure out what it was. She was focused on asking herself the question, what is it that I can invent to provide joy for millions of people? And so she was acutely aware of things around her. And what happened was she went to a party one night and she did just that. She cut out the bottom of her pantyhose, went to the party. That night she came home and she thought, this is it. And that's where Spanx began. Obviously there was a long entrepreneurial journey to get it to where it is now. But the thing about that is, what I want to talk about that is, she had 2 full years where she was constantly asking herself the question, what am I going to invent? What am I going to create so I can sell it and bring joy to millions of people? And she asked that question with the expectation of finding an answer. And I think that's one of the things I talk about a lot with my clients and in my courses and stuff is mindset. And that's one of the powerful things about mindset and those conversations you have with yourself and the habitual questions you ask. When you ask a question, your subconscious goes to work to find an answer for you. So she asked the question of, what is it that I'm going to invent and sell? And her subconscious mind was looking for that, so that when that opportunity was in front of her, she recognized it. And she's even said, there's millions of women that were doing the same thing, cutting out the bottoms of their pantyhose. The difference between them and me is that I was looking for that, and I was expecting to find an answer. And so I think that's one of the best things you can do when you're looking to find an idea for a startup, is ask yourself those questions and let your reticular activating system, the RAS, the thing in your brain that helps you recognize the things that are important to you, like how she did, go to work and help you discover the things that can help you, because it's hard to force something. You know, you can force yourself to find an idea and create a startup, but it's got to come naturally more, and you've got to find what it is that the market's going to want. And that's the other part, is I would suggest don't find what the market needs and fill that need. You hear that a lot. Find the need and fill it. That's not what people buy. People go for things that they want. What people want is more important than what they need, because if they want it, they'll take action on it. So rather than finding that need and filling that need, find out what they want and fill that gap.
Right, the next question is that how an entrepreneur can draw attention to a new product for his new business, because obviously when you're new in the market, you have to make sure that your clients trust you. So how can we basically draw attention to a new product in the market, and what would you suggest about it?
Depends on what the product is, obviously makes a big difference, but there's so many things in the marketplace that people's attention spans have been getting less and less, and so you've got to find a way to grab it. And you know, in marketing they call it hook. You've got to hook someone. If you're looking at social media, what's going to stop your thumb from scrolling? And you've got to figure out a way to stand out, something that is going to really grab someone's attention. And obviously to market, you've got to be able to know people. You can't, you know, Rabbi Daniel Lapin in Thou Shalt Prosper talks about the fact that you've got to be where people are if you're going to be successful in business. You've got to be able to get your product in front of people. So number one, you've got to be able to market yourself. And you know, that's one of the powerful things about entrepreneurship, is are you creating it so that you're the face of your company? You know, you look at Richard Branson with Virgin. You know, he's got Virgin Mobile, he's got Virgin Air, he's got Virgin everything. He's got, I don't know how many companies he's got, but he's the face of it, and we recognize him. And so how does he stand out? You know, he goes water skiing with a nude model on his back. He goes, dresses up in a wedding gown. He does all these things that stand out, that make him different. And that's what you've got to do. You've got to make yourself stand out and be different. You know, with my company Kodiak Mountain Stone, our salesman drives a truck with a huge Kodiak bear on the side. You don't think that grabs attention when they're driving down the road? Of course it does, especially when they stop at a stoplight and the car next to them has a dog in it that drives dogs crazy. But they're people that are in the car, look at the truck. So you've got to find ways that you can stand out above your competition, because everyone's trying to get the same people, do the same things. But you've got to understand what they want and be able to hook them and grab that attention. And so looking for opportunities just to be different. You know, it doesn't matter what the product is. If you can be different and grab people's attention, then they're going to recognize you.
All right, the next question is that how can we avoid hiring wrong people? Because obviously your team for your project, your team for your business startup is very, very important as well. So selecting the right person for your business is very important too. What would be your suggestion to hire the right people for your project or business?
That's tough, because sometimes you don't know that you've hired the wrong people until it's too late. But one of the key things that I talk to a lot of my clients about is, you know, as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we're really focused on doing everything ourselves because, one, we probably have to, or whatever the case is. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs also wait too long to start hiring the right people. And I wrote an article at jeffheggie.com a while ago on Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan's new book, is Who Not How. And that's one of the things I really encourage people to do, is when you're looking at problems, look first, rather than saying, how am I going to do that? Look at who's going to help me do that. Who's the best person to help me do that? And, you know, speaking from experience and working with other people, hiring the wrong person can cause a lot of problems. And a lot of times people get in a situation where they're hiring someone and they end up not finding the perfect person, so they hire the best out of whoever applied. That's a mistake. If you don't have the right person, don't hire them, because it's gonna too many problems down the road that are going to be caused because of that, that you're better off waiting until you can find that right person, and going through some of the pains of not having the right people with you and having enough people, whatever it might be, but hiring the wrong person can be deadly. So one, you've got to do a lot of research. I hired someone once that their resume was outstanding, and I thought I really hired a superstar. And I went from the resume and ended at that, and it ended up being a very, very costly mistake. So what could I have done different? I didn't do my part in due diligence on the follow-up. A lot of the things that were on his resume were not truthful. A lot of the things that I found out down the road is he wasn't truthful. He ended up stealing from me. He ended up doing a number of things. And that was my part, not doing the due diligence, thinking I found the right person and just going ahead and hiring them. A lot of people, especially when you're in an environment where there's a lot of jobs, you're nervous to hurry and hire someone so that you can get them before the next guy does. But you hurry and skip some of those steps, it might cost you down the road. And so just make sure that you do all your due diligence, follow up on the referrals, follow up with things they've done in the past, and just make sure, just because they have a great resume or a great interview doesn't end the story there. Make sure you do the follow-up on them and really know them before you bring them into your company.
All right, that's pretty well answered, sir. So the next question here, sir, that there are basically two techniques which we have studied in our ongoing entrepreneurship course, that are basically effectuation and causation. So as an entrepreneur, if you have to choose one technique, then what would you choose, effectuation or causation?
You know, as a business coach, I really talk to my clients about setting goals, getting clarity, and really understand where you're going. And that's where I think you need to begin. And I really think you've got to have those goals and know how you're going to get there. But at the same time, they can't be so rigid that you can't vary from them, because things can change in an instant. And especially in business, things do change in an instant, and you've got to change. And so you've got to adapt to what's around you. And that was one thing when I was in the banking industry with my other companies, different things I've done. I've always had employees that understand that just because we're doing something doesn't mean that's how it's always going to be. There's always going to be change, and I might implement something today, and if it was wrong, I'm going to implement something new tomorrow. And so that doesn't change the fact that I've got an end goal, and that end goal might change as well depending on what happens. But you've got to start with that end goal and really have the plan on how you're going to get there, and also have the flexibility to change and adapt, because you're going to do things and they're not going to work. You're going to have plans that are perfect, and you're going to have that plan on how you're going to achieve that goal, and then reality sits in, and that plan you had isn't a good plan. So you've got to make that change, and you've got to be able to adapt to how things are going.
The next question is what I consider the most important question, because for a new startup, it is very, very important to make a perfect business plan. What would be your suggestions to make a good business plan?
Creating business plans are interesting. They're important. They're part of, just like I was saying, you need to be able to have your plans and put things into action. And you need to be able to, depending on how big of a company you have, you've got to be able to present to your investors, your board of directors, all those different things. But it's also, having those goals, having that plan is part of a business plan. That's what it's for. But some of the aspects that I think you need to remember about it is, people will overestimate what they can do in a year, but then they'll underestimate what they can do in 5 or 10 years. And so I think what you've got to realize as well is, when you set out plans in a business plan, it's a guess. It's really your best guess, but you don't know how it's going to be, especially when you start looking at 3, 5, 10 years out. You can't predict what's going to happen. You can't predict what the economy is going to do. You can't predict that your key employees, something happens to them, or a new competitor comes in and pivots the entire industry that you're in. There's so many things that you can't predict, that you cannot create a business plan accurately for 10 years out. But it is important to really understand what you are trying to do and put a plan together for that. And that's why I think it's important, as you do that, just like when I was saying setting goals, this has to be a fluid process that you can change as you're going. And it's important to have that high level goal as well. You look at Elon Musk, and he had a business plan to create an expensive car that was going to fund him being able to have a more affordable car, and it goes on and on. If you look that up, he's got exactly what he's doing with his electric cars, and it was a business plan that he put together a number of years ago, and it's all coming to fruition for him. And it's stuff like that. You can't just go Wild West and guess what's going to happen with your business. You've got to put a plan together. You've got to have your goals, but they've got to be fluid and flexible. And then you've got to stay on top of it, because every year, or less, in fact, you've got to adjust that business plan for what you.
How can we stay connected with high profile entrepreneurs? Because obviously if we are starting a new business, then we must need to be connected with those who have already done that kind of business.
So connecting with high profile people to help your startup, networking is key. And the thing about it is, when people are looking for a high profile person to help them with their product, and they go asking for it, it's the wrong way to do it. The most important thing that you can do for your business is networking, but the most important thing to do in that networking is adding value to others without the expectation of anything in return. When you can be recognized as someone that is helping out others, giving and not expecting them to give back, you'll actually receive a lot more back than you give. And when you can be known as someone that's a connector, if you know someone that could benefit from meeting someone else that make those connections and get known as the person that can help people. And as you're giving without the expectation of anything in return, and as you're connecting people, and as your network grows, when the time comes that you need someone to help you out, that's when you'll have the connections that you can ask for those favors, that you can ask for what you need, and they'll be willing to help because they've watched you do so much more. So I think that's the biggest part of networking, is go into networking with the idea that I'm going to give. I'm not there to receive, I'm there to give. And Zig Ziglar said, you can get anything you want in life as long as you help others get what they want. And that's really a key. If you network with that in mind, you'll be successful. Entrepreneurship, it's a roller coaster. It's got its highs and its lows, but the important things are to develop the right plans, have the right goals, and have the right mindset, because mindset plays such a vital part of everything. That most of my coaching started just strictly as business coaching, working with entrepreneurs, helping them build things, create things, and grow their businesses. But I'm also a basketball coach, and I've watched, and I work with a lot of athletes, basketball and other sports. And whether you're an entrepreneur, athlete, or anything else, mindset is your number one asset that you have. Because if you've got a poor mindset or a fixed mindset, it's really going to limit what you're able to do. If you can really have a powerful growth mindset, it's really going to expand what you can do, and it's going to help you as an entrepreneur when you hit roadblocks, when you have failures, because there are going to be failures. And it's easy to listen to all the quotes and cliches saying, failure is part of success, but when you're actually in the middle of it and when you are failing, it's not fun, it's not easy. But when you have the right positive, powerful mindset, what you need to do to go in the new direction. And so that's why the last 6 months or so, that's where my focus has been. I've created a course, High Achievers Mindset Secrets, and it's created to help people to get the right mindset and get to the next level, whether they're an entrepreneur, a coach, an athlete, any high achiever, to really focus on developing a powerful mindset. And one of the keys to developing a powerful mindset is what I call my mindset questions. And you can find out more about that at jeffheggie.com/mindset. That's a bit of an article there. And then there's a link to get the mindset questions for free. But hopefully that's something that can help you as entrepreneurs or whatever you're doing. But I really appreciate the opportunity to be on your show and to continue to get to know more people, and I love the opportunity that we have to get to know people all around the world. So thank you, and I appreciate it.
All right, sir, that was a very good conversation with you, and it's a real pleasure and real honor for me to be with you discussing about all those questions. And thank you so much, sir, again for managing your time from your busy schedule. It's a real pleasure for me discussing about all those questions, and wish you best of luck for your future as well.